I'm somebody who tends to be somewhat skeptical. I don't usually just accept something as true without seriously considering it. And with that said, several months ago I came to a sort of startling realization. I don't know if I can ethically justify eating meat. Could I order one meat mountain, please? I'm not gonna stop though. Why though? Why don't I care? Why doesn't anyone care? And why do we have such a visceral reaction to the idea of not eating meat? Like, legitimately see it from the perspective of non-meat eaters. Animals, they're like our fellow earthlings. And a human's dinner is not more important than an animal's life. It's unreasonable to let him suffer merely just for that. And we can all agree with that claim to some degree, but we don't care. Does it seem weird though?
No, like it is definitely
Like,
a valid
lifestyle
choice. Like I've thought about it. The only reason I don't is because I really like eating meat.
It's
kind of like this one little rock in the road that makes it a little bit uncomfortable for me to go vegan.
Insofar as I understand it, meat just tastes too good. Hi, can I get the spicy chicken sandwich? It's kind of funny how stupid simple the reasoning is. Like, it's so simple that it's hard for non-meat eaters to really wrap their head around it. So what they'll do is they'll automatically assume that the reason why people eat meat is because we're stupid and we don't understand that the chicken I'm eating used to be a part of a live bird. Here, let me give you two examples. In the book Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer, at one point he says something like, maybe if we knew where our food came from, we'd be more hesitant to eat animals. And Paul McCartney once said,
if slaughterhouses had glass walls, we'd all be eating carrots.
Well, Paul, maybe. When my mother was a kid living in
home country,
her aunt was known for making really good fried chicken. My mom was at her auntie's house on the same day that they were slaughtering the chickens. She's probably like 8 years old at the time. And my mom, she saw the chicken, running around with its head cut off, writhing. And then the next day, she just couldn't eat it.
Same thing for a pig. I watched them kill a pig and I couldn't eat it after that either.
Yeah, but we just had pork like today though.
I eat it now as long as I don't see the thing.
Maybe there is something to be said about being more connected to the lives of the animals we eat. But to suggest that the problem is a lack of understanding is so pretentious. Like, I don't need a Princeton grad to tell me that the pig I'm eating used to walk around going oink oink. Like, Miss McGurty covered that in preschool.
Look, if people would just educate...
So stop it. It's so condescending. We know. We've read books like Eating Animals. We've seen the movie. We've seen Food Inc. We know what it is. We know where it comes from. And we know how it's made, and still, we don't really care. Why is that? Nobody wants to change anything. Even some of the meat substitutes we have now, like, they taste just like meat. But still, nobody wants to change.
Well, the only reason I would be okay with that, like, the whole thing of, like, it tasting just like a real meat.
Yeah.
Like, the only reason I would think, like, that's really cool and that's awesome is if we didn't have actual meat.
We just don't want to change anything. And to our defense, I don't really think that's a bad thing, because I don't know if we physically can. Here, let me give you an example. Obesity in the Pacific Islands is incredibly high. For example, in Samoa, the obesity rates are close to 75% of the population. Why? Well, a lot of these nations have been westernized so quickly and so recently that the body hasn't had time to actually adjust to the diet and to the lifestyle. A similar thing goes on with lactose intolerance. Typically over half of all people of color are lactose intolerant. Again, the body hasn't been able to adjust to it. So to think that we, in our lifetime, could get used to an animal protein-free diet is a little absurd. We've been eating meat for longer than we've been human, which is probably why over 80% of vegans quit eventually. Our bodies can't take it. Now, with that said, that isn't actually a justification to eat meat. If somebody said to me, why should you value your life as any higher than the life of that pig that you're eating? What do I say to that? Because I need it? Is that a good reason? If I need money, I can't just take it. That wouldn't make any sense. Why should I have a right to something's life based on need? Typically, vegans will insist that you don't need animal proteins, But when you press somebody on the health risks, it really comes down to the sacrifice is worth it if it means animals don't have to suffer. And that, I can respect that. I really can. That's a noble position to take. And if it were posed to me, why can't you just bite the bullet and go vegan so that animals don't have to suffer? At that point, I don't really have an excuse to keep eating meat. I was talking about all of this with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, and he said right out of the gate that we are, figuratively, at the top of the food chain. And if a lion feels no remorse for killing a zebra, then why should I for eating a cow? So is there something there, us being at the top of the food chain, can that justify eating meat? Let's talk about the brain for a second. You've got 3 of them. You have the reptilian brain, which controls things like heart rate, breathing, or digestion. You've got the limbic brain, and it's responsible for subconscious emotions, fear, joy, fighting, sex. And you've got the neocortex, and it handles memory, rational thought, etc. Think of it like this: body brain, heart brain, head brain. Let's talk about the head brain. So the developed neocortex or prefrontal cortex, all that, in every sense seems to be the main thing that separates us from the animals. Because of this, we humans have now emerged as we're on top. We've dominated the whole earth. And would you hold a cat morally responsible for killing a mouse while toying with it? No, you wouldn't. Then why should you feel anything for eating that pig? And also on feelings. So should we feel a tinge of remorse at the animal's death? Or nothing at its death? Just because we are able to feel bad about them, should we? Isn't this weird? When we make decisions like this, we're using our justification to eat them, our rational mind, to reason not to eat them. But the fact that we have the mental capacities to recognize altruistic moral responsibility only solidifies our place on top and the justification that comes with that. But this doesn't actually help though, because if I can feel bad about eating animals, who's to say I shouldn't? See, a lion has no choice but to eat meat. I, on the other hand, have the ability to make that decision. So, what's stopping me? Polar bear doesn't feel bad for eating seal. Well, then why should I, you know? And just because we can feel bad, that doesn't mean we